Hi everyone, my name is Precious Joy and I am the founder of Purity is Precious. Last week I talked about how I had 5 different videos that I was going to release, and I was going to talk about the different things that I have walked through, how I overcame them, and some things that I've actually conquered, so that when 2018 comes in, you all will be able to take off with flying colors into the year. And so today is the first video that's actually being released, and it is called It's Not Me, It's Them. It's Not Me, It's Them is about people who don't never take responsibility of their actions. It's about us learning how to be one with what has happened, being okay with what has happened, and understanding that things happen for a purpose, things happen for a reason, but things happen to grow and mature you. And so one of the things that I wanted to really talk about is that when you're always being one that's saying it's not me, it's them, they did this, they said this, they done that to me, you're going to always be a person that's going to find yourself stagnant. I can remember a time when I felt like there was this mountain or this brick wall that was always standing in front of me, and I would say, for some reason I can't seem to climb over it, for some reason I can't seem to get over it. And that was something that I would hear myself saying out loud to myself. It wasn't something that I just felt externally, but it was something that I would actually verbalize. I'm like, it's always this mountain that I just can't seem to get over. And I found out that it was because I was a person who never would take ownership and responsibility for my actions. And I always prided myself off of being somebody that was going to always be honest and be 100 and tell the truth in a matter of situations. And so when things would start to happen or whatever, even though I would be honest and I'll talk about it and I'll be one that's willing to address and confront it, I always finished off the statement with a but. And what that was, yes, I did A, B, C, D, E, F, G, but such and such did LMNOP. And so that was the problem. Why am I steady saying, but this had happened? Even though this person may have done those things, it did not validate or give approval for my actions to still be one that is one of distaste. And so until I was able to finally bring myself to the place where there is no but in my life, I found out that I was always going to continue to hit this brick wall, that I was always going to continue to find this mountain that I found that it was going to be hard to get over, simply because of the fact that I was not becoming one with the experiences that had occurred. And I think that the moment that a person learns how to become one with the experiences that has occurred, that's when you're going to be one that can actually become a person that actually learns how to take authority over them and actually know how to distinguish between what is actually transpired. Because when you become one with something, you can actually pull the goodness from it. And when you're distinguishing between it, you can actually detract and subtract what's not good from it. And so one of the things that you're going to have to learn how to do is become one with a situation, but you have to become one with it so that you can learn how to pull from the goodness of it and how to gain wisdom from it. So even though situations may have occurred and I had that but there, that but allowed me to see that it's but not them, it's but you. And so I had to come to a place where I ended up dropping the but they did this too. But Precious, you didn't have to respond like that. But Precious, you didn't have to say that. But Precious, you were wrong. And that I had to come to a place where I knew that and where I became okay with that. And so I would be 100% honest with you all. The last 3 years of my life, that was me. It was not me, it was them. This person did this person did that. I would be so angry if someone was not honest about a situation or was not honest about something that had transpired, and whether or not they made me feel like people believed them or people did believe them. It would bother me so bad to the fact that I would not forgive them. I would be so angry at them or whatnot. And that didn't hurt those people. It didn't hurt them. It was hurting me more because I could not release it. And at that particular time, I could not get over the situation. And so I had to learn how to, and yet these people were steady progressing in life. And so I just, for some reason, could not seem to understand it. Like, I would be like, God, is you serious? This thing has transpired, but yet they are steady progressing, and here I am stuck here. And it was because I had that but. It was simply because I would not take ownership and responsibility. I had to come to a place where I learned that I cannot make others own up to stuff. I cannot make others become one with a certain situation, but I can only do that for me. And only being able to do that for me means that I can only say, well, Precious, yes, this has happened. But at the end of the day, we're going to push past this. At the end of the day, we're going to forgive them. At the end of the day, we're going to constantly move forward because this is what we are called to do. And so one of the things that I found myself doing was that when I was in that place where I could not move past it, and when I was in that place where I kept blaming them, it was as if I was trying to throw daggers at them. It was as if I was trying to throw daggers at their back, but yet the daggers didn't necessarily hit them. They actually boomeranged and came back to me. And that was something that frustrated me. I just couldn't understand it, because when I say it boomeranged and it came back to me, that meant that my finances wasn't acting right. And I was a person who was always a giver, who loved to give. I helped support friends. I had no problem with blessing spiritual leaders. I had no problem with helping the homeless. Whatever it was, I was a giver. I loved to give. But then I found myself in a place where my finances started to suffer. And I've always been one that's been very free-flowing and, able to save and do different things like that. And then I found myself where I'm living paycheck to paycheck. And now I'm having to pick up extra hours at work when I used to be able to do a minimum and be able to live very comfortably, save a decent amount of money. But yet all of a sudden there is a breach here or whatever. And now my finances is not measuring up, or taxes is hitting me even stronger now. And I'm looking like, well, where's all the money going? If this is what it's saying I got beforehand, and this is my take home, what's really going on here? So my finances started to shrivel up and started to actually dwindle. And so I was like, what is that? Raised up a huge question. The second thing was that my sexual desires had now became untamed. I could remember being so angry and so frustrated with the fact that things were not going right, that things were not lining up, and that people seemed to be constantly advancing and moving forward. But to me, they were not being one with things that had happened or being honest about it. And so even though I was so angry about it and so unforgiving, and I kept wanting for them to take ownership or whatnot, and I refused just to take ownership of the situation as a whole, my sexual desires had started to arouse. I was one that was I always had my sexual desires, what I would like to call, in check on some things or whatnot. And when I was going through a situation in my life, and this was literally just about 3 years ago, I can remember it, and I'll trace back into it. It'll probably come up in some future blogs, and not some blogs, I'm sorry. This is going to come up in a future video, probably in the next 2 or 3 videos, when I talk about masturbation was my safe place or whatnot. But when I get to that one, I'm going to talk about how I was a person that I struggled with masturbation probably since the age of 12, all the way up to like my early 20s. And then once I got into my early 20s, I want to say around 22, I ended up really finally bringing myself to where I got fully delivered and set free from masturbation. And then all of a sudden, after 4 or 5 years of not falling into that sin anymore, I found that I fell right back into it 3 years ago. And that bothered me. At the age of 27, here I am, disappointed in myself because of a sin that I tried so hard to try to free myself from, that I allowed God to finally deliver me from. And now I'm okay and I'm in a good place or whatnot. I'm now falling back and dibbling back into the very thing that I have had a 5-year freedom from. And that brought me to a place where I became so frustrated. I became so angry, and I became so angry and frustrated about it because I felt like I let myself down. But you know what the problem was? It wasn't that it wasn't that I felt that I had let myself down so much, even though I knew I did. I then blamed others. I went right back into, well, if this wouldn't have happened, and if that wouldn't have went down, and if this person would have believed me, and if this would have been said, and if everybody would have took ownership, there is no reason why I would have fell back into this sexual sin. And I felt that way simply because of the fact that I was looking for a place of love. I felt like I had hit a place in my life where everyone was like against me, or nobody wanted to understand me, and nobody really cared. So now all of a sudden I'm trying to find love. I'm trying to find love because I didn't feel like I was getting it, and I probably didn't even know how to receive it at that particular time. So now here I am in this demonic form of self-love. I'm in this demonic form where here I am trying to bring myself to a place of pleasure and it was actually killing another part of me on the inside, because I wasn't in a place where that wasn't a wholeness act. That wasn't a place where it would breathe life into me. And so my sexual desires had went on a rampage and things of that nature. And so I fell into watching things like pornography at that time, and all because I was looking to medicate something. I was looking to medicate myself so that I can feel better about who I am and where I am or whatnot. But the reality is that after every time when masturbation was done, after every time when I clicked off to watch pornography, I felt little and I felt like crap right behind it. And so I knew that it wasn't something that was good. But the problem was that I still kept trying to blame others for my failures. I still kept trying to blame others for the things that went wrong. I still kept trying to make others own up to stuff. And I had to realize that it does not matter what others do. It does not matter what others say. It does not matter what others will or will not take ownership of. I have to be taking ownership of my actions. And so that looks like saying, even though this situation has occurred, I choose to forgive myself. I choose to forgive this person. I choose to forgive, and I choose to free them and take full blame and ownership and responsibility of everything that has happened and occurred. And that's where I'm actually am today. If something happens, if something goes down, if something seems not to be right, instead of me getting upset about it, instead of me going to a place where I used to be very revengeful and where I would try to get back at them, I immediately now go into a place where I choose to forgive them, I choose to bless them, and I choose to apologize to them. Whether it's I'm doing it to myself, or whether it's actually a situation where I do have an opportunity to apologize, face to face or whatnot. But one of the things that I have done at this particular time of my life is that I don't expect an apology, because you have to be okay. You may not get that apology. You may not get people that's going to own up to their wrongs and own up to their responsibility and even own up to a situation. But that is not the place where you stop living that. That's not the place where you decide life is not worth pursuing purpose. That's not the place where you decide that God can't use you anymore. That's the place where you actually bring yourself to, where you begin to understand that even though this person won't do this, or this person won't take ownership, that does not take any value from me. That does not take any value from this situation. That does not take any value from this whole scene as a whole. But what it does, it adds value. It adds purpose. It adds understanding, and it adds another layer for you to begin to understand why this had to occur in the first place. And so I super love it, because one of the things that you don't want to do is to establish a place in your life where you constantly have failure in your emotions, because that's only going to bring you to a place of different setbacks. So you have to learn how to say, okay, this has happened. I'm so sorry that this has happened. I choose to forgive the fact that this situation has happened. I choose to forgive this person, this environment, this situation. I choose to forgive. And then you bring yourself into a place where you choose to just continue to move forward, because the reality is that there is a purpose for you. There is something that you're supposed to be doing, and everything that occurs in life and everything that happens, it happens because there is a valuable system that needs to be manifested through the things that you've been called to do. And so a lot of times we just want to stay stagnant, or we feel like we're justified in our emotions. We feel like we're justified in our anger and justified in our bitterness, but it doesn't justify anything. All it's going to do is constantly put a mountain in front of you that you can't seem to move past until you understand that you need to let go of some things. You cannot go into the next dimension, into the next phase, into the next promotion of your life until you begin to release the baggage and let go of a lot of things that has occurred and happened in your life. And I understand how hard that can be. You're talking to a person who lived and breathed bitterness. You were talking to a person who lived and breathed unforgiveness. You were talking to a person who felt justified in her anger and her nasty attitude and how she carried herself. You're talking to someone who did not fully understand what it means to have the mind of Christ, or fully understand what it means to try to walk in his ways. But I could not seem to understand those things because I didn't establish a deep enough relationship with him at that time, so that I can be able to bring myself to a place where I'm able to see things from his perspective, or I'm able to see things from a different viewpoint. So I had to bring myself to a place where it was like, okay, God, finally, I'm tired of this brick wall. I'm tired of carrying this baggage. I'm tired of feeling so heavy. I'm tired of seeing things unraveling for others, but not for myself, when I know that there's a great purpose and a great call on my life. I had to bring myself to a place where I finally got tired of being in the same position, of being in the same predicament, of being in the same type of environment mentally, till I was able to bring myself and allow God to bring me to a place where he can actually minister to my mind, minister to my heart, minister to my emotions, and bring me to a place where I can actually see things from a completely different perspective. And so if you're still in a place where you're constantly saying it's not me, it's them, that is a place that you're never going to move past or forward from until you're able to take full blame and responsibility from anything that has happened in your life. Yes, some things has happened in our lives that we cannot control and that we could not prevent. However, you don't allow for those things to control you. You don't allow those things to prevent you from moving into purpose. You don't allow for those things to constantly manipulate you into sitting in the same predicament over and over for years to come. And that's one of the biggest things that you want to constantly try to move past. In life, we should be going from level to level to level. You should be always one that's trying to elevate to the next, that's trying to go to the next level. And the only way to get to that place is when you finally bring yourself into complete surrender of the things of your past, complete surrender of needing to be proven right. No, that's not important. It still really won't probably mean much to you if people did say you were right and I was wrong. It wouldn't mean much, because all of a sudden, yeah, you may get that, but at the same time, you're still not going to find the solitude that you were looking for, because all of a sudden it's going to feel like, yeah, they took ownership of it, or they said I was right, they was wrong, but I didn't like how she said it, or I felt like she was being sarcastic. It's going to always be something that the enemy is going to put up in your mind that's going to make you say or find a way as to why it was not done good enough, or why it was not done perfectly for you. And so come out of the need of even needing to be valid, of needing for someone to validate that you were right and that they were wrong. No, that's not even something that's important. That's not even something that needs to be even taken into consideration. That's just something that you need to come out of agreement with, because the very important thing is that you want to be able to find yourself in a place where you're able to be happy. You take full blame and responsibility for everything, and you're learning that regardless of what happened, that does not define you. Regardless of what has transpired, it does not define you. And I think that that's one of the biggest things that we need to learn, how to distinguish between the two as people. What happens to me and what was done to me does not define me. And I think that that's where we need to learn how to come to. And then after that, you'll open up a door to where you will be able to understand the heart of God for your life like never before. And so learn from my mistakes. When I couldn't take ownership and responsibility of things that had happened, and I was constantly pointing the finger at others, I fell back into masturbation. My finances suffered. My finances suffered severely. And I was looking for love and acceptance, all because I felt like I wasn't getting it from people. But I developed and I fell into a demonic form of self-love for myself. And so I want for you all to see how just in that time frame of me just not wanting to take responsibility for my actions actually brought me to a place where I fell even deeper and more broken. So imagine having a 5-year deliverance from masturbation and then all of a sudden falling right back into the very sin that you fought so hard to get free from. That thing really took a lot out of me. And then it was even hurtful, because now I knew the type of struggle that I had to even get free from it. And here I am back in the same thing again. Here I am back in the same brokenness and the same struggle, and not even knowing if I was even going to escape it this time. I had no idea if I was even going to escape it this time around. But yet, it wasn't until I started to peel back the layers and started to understand where masturbation was able to creep back in at, where the rejection and the hurts and the disappointments, how that opened up the door for masturbation to even, get his fingertips back in so that I can, fall back into it or whatnot. And so I'm really hoping that you all be able to understand how important it is for you to take ownership and responsibility. If your sexual desires is untamed, trust and believe it's simply because you are not taking ownership and responsibility for some things that has happened in your life, and now you're pointing a finger and blaming it at others. However, your body is causing you to act out in an ungodly way. Your body is causing you to act out in a way that you think is bringing you pleasure or a form of love, but yet it's actually bringing you to a place where you are finding yourself broken like never before. And so that's pretty much what my encouragement for you all today. Learn how to take ownership, responsibility, and learn how to seek God for what it is that He desires to do in your life and for you. I encourage you all to continue to push past things that has happened. Take the but out of the end of the sentence. Yes, this happened. I did this. I was wrong for saying this, but precious, you need to learn how to look past this. But such and such, you need to learn how to move forward. But this, you need to change the but from a negative to a positive. And I think that once you learn how to do that, you will find that you would now gain more control over your finances. You will find that you would then gain more control over your sexual desires. And then you would also discover that you are finally able to gain control over everything that God has actually called for you to do. You will find yourself being able to completely surrender to God like never before, and you will no longer be moved by people's opinions, their concerns, and things that they have done to you and against you, but yet you will be able to instantly forgive them, love them, and wish great blessings upon them. And so once again, my name is Precious Joy. I am the founder of Purity is Precious. If you would like to check us out, you can go right to purityisprecious.com. You can follow me on Instagram at purityisprecious. And also you can subscribe to the YouTube channel at Precious Joy. I love you all. Have a nice day.